Hi, this is Roman from Bizarrekult, and you're listening to the Dan Chan Show.
Hey Roman, thanks for joining me on the show. How are you it must be cold in Oslo right now.
Hi, Dan. It's actually really nice. I mean, it's been fairly snowy, but not so cold, so it's really good.
Awesome. It's one place I need to get to. I've never been to Oslo, so I must get there as soon as I can.
Well, you better do. You know that we have this Inferno festival on the Easter,
Yeah, of
so it's
course.
really good. So I can recommend you come here, and we are actually going to play there on Wednesday, so it's going to be
Awesome.
cool.
Awesome. We'll get into that. And you're here to just talk about your outfit, Bizarrekult, and you've just released your second offering. Now, my Norwegian needs some work, and the amount of black metal I play on my show, my Norwegian is terrible. So just correct me if I've done this wrong. I'll try my best. Den Tapte Krigen.
Yeah, it's correct. It's called Den Tapte Krigen. Yeah.
Oh, not bad. Done a good job. So that's been out, a week now or so? How's the reviews been and the responses up to now?
Well, actually, it's been less than a week. It came out on Friday, and there was
Friday.
like,
Yes, it was Friday, wasn't it? Yeah, 27th.
yeah, it was last Friday. So I think the response was simply fantastic. So many, positive messages from the fans on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. It's really, really, it's really amazing to see how people appreciate the new record. It's really great.
And are you the kind of guy that goes looking for those kind of reviews, or do they just drop on into your inbox and or I know a lot of people do try and avoid them.
No, I mean, it's a combination, it's like I do from time to time, I check what's going on, but normally people also tag you like, on
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah.
So it's automatically you get this stuff, but never on email. I think it's mostly on social media these days. You just get a note. And, it's really impressive that sometimes I get from the fans, I get screenshots in personal messages. Oh, we've seen the magazine. Here's actually, they write about you. That's really cool.
It's an awesome album, mate. You should be very proud. And, your music touches on so many elements of metal. How do you like to write how do you write this music that's so eclectic?
Well, thank you. I mean, it's very hard to explain. Probably it's just a matter of inspiration. I don't know. It's just, just kind of flows itself. It just falls into my hands, and if I like it, I keep it.
Yeah, sure. And what themes are you writing about on this album, and how does it differ from your first album?
Yeah, so you see, it's like you're thinking about lyrics, right?
Yeah.
So lyrically, basically, it's like when I because I had a very big pause in like between 2009 2019, I haven't done anything at all.
Yeah.
And then when I got back into music in 2019, so the biggest question for me was actually, okay, well, what I'm going to tell about, it's like, okay, you have the music, but then you want to have something interesting to tell about. So then I decided that I just kind of do a retrospective reflections in myself in a way, seeing the things from like, you get older and then you start looking on how the things were in childhood and things like that. So basically we can say the previous album was mostly about, looking backwards.
Yeah.
Whereas this new album is more like looking into nowadays because, I did a lot of reflections on, where I'm heading now, what I'm doing in this society with family and all those kind of relationships. So it's just mostly it's personal relationships and then a little bit of societal perspective. And, it's often like put in a, let's say, postmodernist, kind of phrasing. So it's not directly, directly just telling about something, but it has a certain framework there. But then at the same time, like one of the tracks, for example, the track called Kongen, there I speak, it's mostly inspired by the book Eating Animals. So it's against animal violence, you can say so. But also I put in just in principle against violence in principle, like against violence in human society as well.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to touch a little bit broader spectrum.
I'm trying to understand. You used to live in Siberia, right? And I want to know how you got from Siberia. Are you a Norwegian national that moved to Siberia, or are you a Siberian that moved to Norway? And how much does that creep into your music? The ambience, the surroundings, the environment.
Yeah.
The band was formed there, I believe.
Yeah. So basically, I'm originally, I was born in Russia.
Right.
And then I lived there, yeah, until I finished my university, and then I left. So it's like many years ago
Yeah.
since I left. But then, yeah, when I was done with studies, I just wanted to, explore the world and get more experience and so on. So after a couple of moments, I ended up here, and yeah, finally I settled here.
Hmm.
And
You
when
could
we
have gone
think
somewhere
about,
warmer, Roman. You could have gone somewhere warmer. You've gone from ice to more ice.
well, I mean, it's a matter of, it's like Siberia is really big, right? So
Yeah.
then where I lived, it's like close to Chinese border, so it's
Yeah.
it's quite warm in the summer as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you think of, I mean, it was like I never had a concrete plan, it was more like I was young and a bunch of random decisions that lead you somewhere, and then you just act on whatever comes, you just act on this. So if you think about how it um, influenced on me musically or just creatively in a way, I think mostly it's like I think it influenced me that my educational background is more like I'm used to like classic, or let's say classic Russian literature with, I don't
Yeah.
know, like 18th, 19th, 20th century, early 20th century.
Hmm.
So I think this is what probably is reflected most in the music, because the way I write lyrics is very like, on the edge of, is it okay to actually speak about this? Because it's like an open wound,
Yeah, sure.
so this is something that I can say that I believe that I brought from this literature and poetic tradition.
Hmm.
But then when it comes to music itself, I don't know. I think it's more like the music is more like, more like closer to Norwegian music. I mean, Norwegian metal music,
Mm.
but also because we blend in like not just black metal, but we blend like post rock,
Yeah, of course.
post metal, doom metal. Like I'm really a big fan, like of My Dying Bride, for example.
Mm.
So it's like these kind of influences. So yeah, something like this.
You're doing tracks heavily in obviously Norwegian. I explained my Norwegian earlier and how
Yeah.
bad it is. Do you ever think you'd do anything in English, or do you think that's just not something you'd ever approach?
So that's a very interesting discussion, which I actually had with some people that would listen to the shows when we were on tour last year in Europe. People were telling me like, yeah, but it sounds really good, but then you are losing people that don't understand the lyrics.
Mm.
And I said, well, it's kind of decision. It's like an artistic decision because it's a matter of identity. You identify yourself like this. I want to have this music with the words in this language because this is the
Yeah.
language I speak,
Yeah.
most of the day, let's say, and this is how I feel. But then on this new album, I blended a little bit of Russian in a few
Yeah.
areas,
Mm.
and it has like a certain meaning also. It's like it's not just random, okay, let's use another language, but also it has a meaning within the song.
Mm.
And then I can tell you that for the third album, which is not recorded yet, but it's in the works, I have one song in English because somehow I felt like, okay, here I would like to say some English words.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter with black metal anyway, what you're singing. And I mean, you get superstar bands like Rammstein being able to get global mega stardom for singing in German. You don't need to know the lyrics.
Oh yeah, yes and no. It's like if sometimes if the lyrics are interesting and meaningful,
Of
then it's kind
course.
of cool to
Of
know the
course.
lyrics.
Of course. Oh yeah,
But I mean,
you've got to translate them, Ruben. I'm saying I want to know what you're singing about, but it doesn't mean you got to sing along with it.
yeah,
If you know what I mean.
absolutely, yeah.
How do you feel over the years? You've artistically evolved. You're originally a poet. You're obviously very well read. You're a very educated guy. How have you changed throughout the years? Now we're into 2023.
Wow, that's a very global question. How I changed, I'm not a young teenager anymore.
No, exactly. I can tell.
Well, no, I mean it's like it's very interesting because you start looking into like retrospectively and prospectively. I think I became very organized in a way these days. It's like because let's say 20 years ago, it was like, you were very random and passionate and, no plan whatsoever. These days, it's more like, okay, you need to plan this and that. You think about many different things that are like practical things in a way.
Mm.
So with regards to music, I don't know. It's hard to say. With music, I think I'm still kind of like this younger person with,
Mm.
a lot of random ideas and like random inspiration. So I'm not like sitting and, okay, I need now to finish this. No, it's more like, okay, it comes when it comes.
Family wise, you settled now in Norway. Now, your wife is heavily involved in the band, isn't she? She lends her amazing voice to the record and helps with the musical ideas. What's it like working with your wife? And, when you're having a boring midweek supper, are you discussing music ideas?
Well, you see, the thing is that my wife is a teacher of music, so it's like discussing music is not a question. It's like this is kind of unavoidable. It's
I
not
see.
possible to avoid this topic because, there's something at work or something like this.
Yeah.
But then, and we've been doing something together with like musical efforts for like almost 20 years in a way.
Yeah.
So there's like, it's very interesting because she has like classical education in music with classical music as a basis. So then she provides very interesting critique to me. Sometimes it's kind of harsh. Not always I accept it. It's more like, I can argue about it or
Yeah.
like things like that. But then it's very valuable because basically this is the first person that ever hears any ideas, and I throw in ideas.
Yeah.
We can try to play something together, and if I have some melodies that I write for her, then of course we can try it and test if it works, if it doesn't work. So it's actually amazing to be together with a person like this. And it's even more funny. Like our youngest daughter, she sings in the opera corps
Yeah.
here, operator, and actually she's also picking up in a way. Like, okay, she asked me, is it possible that on the next record or the record after it, I'm also contributing a little bit? I want to
Awesome.
have, I
Yeah.
want to be in the sound. It's like, because it's funny because in this age they start to like interested what's going on Spotify and things like that, and then
Mm.
it's like, oh well, so she told me, yeah, well, you are very cool because you're on Spotify. I also want to be there. I was like, well,
Brilliant.
okay.
Maybe you should write an album for her and she can sing.
Well, definitely, it can be. It can be. I don't know. I don't know where it ends up.
Make her
So it's
cool. Make her as cool as you.
absolutely, it's like it's kind of funny, yeah.
Do you ever have moments where they critique you and you're like, oh, I can't do that now because they didn't like it?
You mean my kids or my
Yeah.
wife?
Does anyone, your wife is very talented.
Well,
You know,
she can be very tough with critique.
they're the
And
best
and
critics.
sometimes it's like she can be really like against what I'm going to do. Like I'm saying, well, these are the ideas that I'm going to do, and she's like, no, I don't like this. But then when I finish the demo, when I like, because very often I'm like, if I have something on the guitar and I have everything like structured in my head,
Mm,
this is in a way far from how it will sound when it's all done, recorded.
mm,
So, and then if I already have a picture and a vision how it's going to be, and she just hears, a couple of things on the guitar, it's very, far from the final result,
mm.
then she can change her opinion. And
Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
things like
Sure.
that. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because everybody has their own favorites. Like, okay, this is the favorite track, this one is not, and so on.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's kind of funny.
Of course, but it is. It's a very musical household. Now, one question, this leads me in really. Do you like being a one man project? But it sounds like it's a one family project. Or, do you miss the camaraderie of a band? Have you ever been in a band where you've had like a bunch of people around you? I know you
Oh
guys,
yeah, yeah.
I know you get
Well,
guys in the
actually,
studio, but it's your thing, isn't it?
well, I mean, it's like you see, it's like yeah, we've been playing together with my wife, but we were not married back then. So we've been in a band like, yeah, almost 20 years ago, like 15 years ago. And then now these days, it's like, yeah, it's mostly remote work. I have a couple of friends that help with the recording.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no real band, but then I have a live crew also with a couple
Yeah.
of guys here in
Yeah.
Norway
Yeah.
that play concerts with me. So it's kind of in a way a band, but it's not like a band where everyone contributes equally.
No,
If
sure.
if that's what you're looking for,
Yeah.
it's like for me, it's more like I'm happy with it's a little bit autocratic, autocracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, of
It's
course, of
like
course.
I want it to be as I plan and so on. So I'm like, yeah. When
I
it comes to
understand.
creative process, it's more or less my ideas, and then I can take critique, I can change something, but then it's not that I would like to blend my ideas with somebody else's ideas.
Sure, I understand. Now, when you joined Season of Mist, the awesome label Season of Mist, how much of a perfect fit was it for you?
Well, I think at the moment I can't think about of the better label for myself,
Yeah, exactly.
because a very professional team, everything is fantastic, the communication is great, the production, how they released the album, everything is manufactured fantastic level. So, and I think getting a very good coverage.
Mm,
So yeah, it's like there's nothing to complain for me.
mm,
It's like, and I really like that they are like, for me, Season of Mist is basically a legendary label with so
awesome.
many artists
Yeah,
that I have been listening for years. And like last year when we were on tour with two other Season of Mist bands,
mm,
it was really also a great feeling,
awesome.
because like, to be on the tour with the artists that you yourself think, I'm a fan of these
Of
bands, is really great.
course. Yeah, who was that you on tour with?
So we were on tour with the German band Der Weg einer Freiheit
Yeah.
and the French band Regarde les hommes tombés.
Uh,
So it's like it was very cool combination, because it's like all three bands are like post black metal in a way,
yeah, yeah.
but they're different. So I
Mm.
think it was a very good package for the listeners.
Now, the imagery of the band is important for you with some glorious artwork. I love your artwork on this album. What's the mindset behind the cover art and who did it for you? Did you get involved in the inspiration for that?
Yeah. So basically, the cover for this one and for previous one, they are both based on the lyrics and the images and visions that I have in the songs.
Yeah.
So both these were made by the guy from Saint Petersburg, from Russia.
Uh-huh.
His name is Ivan Gladky. He worked also with other bands like Vovod that were on Church Road Records, I
Hmm.
think last year or 2 years ago.
Hmm.
So he's more like into hardcore, sludge, whatever metal, and not really into black and things like that. But then, so here the idea is that, because you see the title of the album is this, the Lost War. This is the
Yeah.
title of the
Lost
album in
War. Yeah.
English,
Yeah.
and this is about the struggle that every person has, in life, basically. And the idea is that, well, you can have goals that are not really your goals, aims that are not really yours, like from the families, from the societies, politicians, and things like that. And basically, you spend your life on fighting this war very often with yourself and,
Mm.
with people around, and, life in principle. And when it's like that, there's no way to win this war, because these are not your goals.
Mm. Yeah, I understand.
And then this cover is, you have those two boxes that are kind of, they are stuck together, and then it's one box, so it's like this idea that you are fighting yourself, you know.
Mm. Yeah.
And then on their backs you see castles and ruins and things like that, and this is like the castles of broken dreams.
Mm.
So it's like during this fight or struggle, you are kind of losing actually what is important for you. Maybe you
Yeah.
forget it, maybe you just abandon it, but you spend your life on something not really important.
Now, going on to the band name, Bizarrekult, where did the name come from? What was the inspiration behind it? Did you come up with it?
Oh yeah, I mean, I invented it in 2005.
Yeah. How did it come
So,
about? How did it happen?
well, I mean, to be honest, it was kind of funny thing, because the first part, bizarre, is like my username on like internet forums at
Right.
those days, like 20 years
Yeah,
ago.
of course. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And I chose it because, just to, because I felt like, okay, I'm slightly different than everybody else.
Mhm.
So, but to use, yeah, and I thought like, okay, bizarre is maybe okay name for, to show that you are a little bit different. And that's it. But then, yeah, cult was just for fun in a way, at some point. But then, when I settled in Norway, I realized that actually, okay, cult is like a Norwegian word for cult, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so now these days, I kind of reflected on this, that actually it has a different meaning for me. This name, I mean, even if it was created out of, let's say, no serious idea back in the days. So now I What I'm trying to say is that actually Bizarrekult is this idea that everybody in, every human, regardless of if it's a good person, a bad person,
Mm-hmm.
everybody wants to live, right?
Mm-hmm. Of
Like
course.
until the last moment. And this is actually the cult of life, so this is kind of bizarre cult of life.
Mm.
Everybody wants to live, even if
Yeah.
they say, that they are evil or whatever it is. It's actually within every person. There's the desire, this, it can be automatic desire to live, to continue living. So, yeah.
Show wise, what's happening? Do you have a big 2023 planned to back up this amazing album?
So far the plan is rather modest. So now
Okay.
we plan to play at this Inferno event,
Yeah.
as Inferno Club Show, in April, and then there's another festival in Norway in September that we are confirmed, and then we are going to Latin America, to Mexico in October,
Nice.
and then it's a little bit hard to say what's going to happen in between, but something is going to happen.
Cool. I mean, what's a Bizarre Cult show like?
Well, it's very different from me in normal life, and it's kind of unexpected, and it was really funny because somebody, I think it was on Bandcamp or somebody or somewhere else, the guy wrote that, actually that was the most metal thing he ever saw, that just a normal shy person that you just saw half an hour off stage becomes into this open explosive vocalist on the show.
Yeah. Amazing.
So it's like, I go full mode, I just explode in, and trying to translate the language
Mm-hmm.
and the meaning of words into something that can be visual. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just my feeling, how I feel it.
Mm.
But it sounds good, I think. And I have on live, I have one of the guitarists. He's a very good singer.
Mm-hmm.
So he's basically replacing my wife's voice.
Yeah.
So it sounds really good, I think.
Yeah. Awesome. And personally, growing up in Siberia, what music took your fancy when you were a young kid, teenager, and took you into drew you towards the darkness, shall we say? What music was on offer then? It was music quite easy accessible out there?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like, let's say when I was first, like, let's say, looking into rock metal stuff, it was like early 90s. It was
Yeah.
like Bon Jovi and Guns N' Roses, things like
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
like, let's say, soft
Yeah. Of
soft
course.
music in a way, right?
Yeah.
That was Nirvana and Offspring and Metallica were also very big things in early 90s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then, yes, through my sisters, because I have an older sister, and she had friends, I started to discover like more heavy bands like My Dying Bride, and the early Swedish death metal like
Yeah.
Dark Tranquillity at the Gates.
Yeah.
So this was like my journey to the darker side in a way.
Love it.
And then I really liked the Creator, like in the mid 90s. That was like one of my most favorite bands.
Amazing.
And I would say like the British doom death, like those
Oh yeah.
three bands, Paradise Lost, My Dying Bride, and Anathema were really big.
Yeah. Yeah.
My big bands at those days.
Now, what's your favorite element of music? Is it the writing, the recording, the releasing, or maybe the shows? What is it that, what's your favorite element of the whole musical thing?
I'd say it's writing, and then I would like to hear, the finished product in a way.
Hmm.
Because this magic moment, like from not a moment, but the process from, okay, I have something on the guitar, to, well, now it sounds like a very good song. This
Yeah.
is like the most exciting thing.
Now, how do you imagine someone listening to your music? What's the ideal scenario? Do you picture them laying in front of the fire with headphones on with a glass of wine, or maybe wandering through the wilderness? How would you want a listener to listen to your music?
I think it's very different because we are all different. Some people, they smash it loud on their speakers with the vinyls.
Mm.
Some people go in the forest and listen it there. Some, it's really like up to everyone's, interest.
How would you listen to your album?
For me, mostly I listen to music when I'm outside.
Mm.
So it's in the headphones and, on hiking or something like this. For me,
Right.
it's the best thing. And this is also how I also, try to find inspiration for lyrics myself when I have demo versions of songs.
Mm.
I just, walk for hours and I listen to those demos and just, write some words there.
That's great. That's such a good insight to know how you come up with things like that and know that how deep it is for you. That's very cool. Like to know things like that. One more question for you. What one track sums Bizarrekult up the best, do you think? One track that has all your elements in, because I'm going to play it next. What track is it?
Yeah, one track, I don't know. Let's try this Mid is Stormen from the last album.
Yeah. Why?
Well, it's because it has all the components in a way. It has a very groovy black and roll riff in the beginning,
Mm.
which sounds almost like, something on the border between black and roll and System of a Down in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So then it has a slow moment with my wife's voice, which is very deep and melancholic.
Uh-huh.
And then it ends up into like more like a little bit more like doom metal thing. So it's
Awesome.
like it shows the different sides of the music.
I'm going to play it next, coming right up. Roman, thanks for joining me tonight on the show. It's much appreciated. Good luck with everything. And I hope to catch you at a show in maybe, hopefully, 2023.
Thank you so much.